Good morning from West Coast, from Wild West. I'm Oksana Davida and Diaspora UA, our channel, is welcoming you to our program. Today I want to make a very short program about one question, one suggestion I got from our viewers, from our team who is listening to us, who is waiting for every new Ukrainian or even English language report like I'm doing today. And one of those questions was, Ms. Oksana, can you explain and can you pay some attention in your program to created problem, which is on news again somehow after 6 months break. So that problem was, if you remember how it started, first day of war between Russia and Ukraine, after that ugly, bloody aggression, we had interesting line on our news everywhere, which was spreaded even by some solid American news people. Problem was Ukraine has 46 biolabs, which is very dangerous number. And those biolabs are doing something very terrible, dangerous, and we have to pay attention to this because, as Putin explained, one of his line of excuse why he did start this terrible war, which he called special operation. It's not a special operation. This is a real war. He mentioned in his speech one day, like, yes, I'm cleaning Ukraine from biolabs. I'm freeing whole world from that terrible danger of bioweapon, which is created in Ukraine with American money, with support of Pentagon, and with big investment, which is totally against humanity. And I'm such a hero. You have to be thanking me for what I'm doing in Ukraine. So let me give you a few insiders explanation to that problem, because it really triggers me every time I hear that report. And first of all, it was a big part of very famous Russian propaganda, who is working very well through Russia Today and other similar channels. And if you hear that from even famous American news reporters, trust me, it's not their opinion. This is just digested information they got from Russian propaganda. Why they doing it and what reason, how much they paid, or other questions, it's up to you. But this is totally fabricated big news. And I will explain you why. First of all, as I remember, in 2005, US has partnered with Ukraine through the Pentagon's Biological Threat Reduction Program. So it means their purpose was to support peaceful and safe biological detection and diagnostic capabilities and to reduce the threat posed by pathogens. It's a normal reaction, normal description on very specific action which happened after Soviet Union fell apart in 1991. As you understand, it was total chaos in all former Soviet republics, of course, including Ukraine. And at that moment, we were getting a lot of humanitarian help. Yes, American government was making a little investment, a little system of grants and financial support to all field of life in every republic, of course, and one of most important was health system in each country, and of course Ukraine got their portion. So since 1991, and another wave was like in 2005, but it was going for many years, and total amount of investment or help, how you want to call it, actually it was investment, because helping Ukraine to make health system more secure and more productive would help whole world, because in case something happens, you know, with Soviet ammunition in health system, we were not very well prepared to some serious problems. So actually it was very little money which is supposed to help. If you're talking about medical labs, of course, it's pretty little amount to buy like extra microscope or some materials or some reusable materials or some extra iPetri dishes or, you know, all that labs equipment. So nothing special, because 200 million for 46 labs, and I will explain what labs I'm talking about. It's very, very little. And again, I just discovered very easy way how to explain difference in math numbers for American people. If I'm saying 200 millions and I'm saying it's very little, it's like, I call it coffee money. If you remember how much money American government was pulling into Afghanistan for 20 years, it was 300 millions every day. I know I like that number because not everyone can imagine billions or trillions or even millions of dollars. But if you use that comparison, it's very easy to understand. So now, about 46 labs, even Pentagon mentioned that number in Ukraine. I live in Ukraine half of my life. So 25 regions in Ukraine, and each region, we call it oblast, has a main city. And of course, each region and each city has serious few hospitals, medical institute, and of course, each hospital in every city has a little medical lab inside that hospital for some simple test. And in a city, we have like centralized medical lab who is working with all those mini labs. If we have some serious cases or even statistic, even some medical research, it's normal. This is okay to have freedom for research, even in that field, absolutely, right? Every doctor is using facility like this for his patients. But I have even personal input in this story because my parents were doctors. My dad was a surgeon, very prominent surgeon, and my mom, she's still with us. She was even consulting me on this problem. And she was a doctor infectionist. Now she's retired, of course, but she's still brilliant. And I got some input from her too for this program. Guess what? When I was checking those 46 addresses, which was published on some, I believe it was Pentagon site, when that problem just appeared to be in first week of war, because everybody started to talk. I opened that address list, and yes, I do see like 1 or 2 addresses in each city of Ukraine. And suddenly my eyes were kind of shocked because I see one address in one city of West Ukraine where my parents were working as doctors. And I know that city. I lived there for 8 years as a child. So I physically know that street. I physically remember even entrance to that nice classical style building. It was very big for that city. City was like 115,000 people, so not very big, but still. It was one central medical lab, which was working for every possible hospital, a little clinic in whole area, including even little labs from little villages, because we do have like 1 or 2 doctors, and we call it ambulatory clinic for little village. So all those results, all those special glass containers, you know, with all possible biological materials, it's blood, it's other liquid we got from human's body, and all that information was coming to the central lab. So if you want to call it biomedical labs, absolutely, you're absolutely right, because that labs works with different pathogenic materials. So you can start from simple flu, which happen to be not very simple sometimes, you know, you can die even from a flu. You can think about other pathogens. We have people with hepatitis. It's very pathogenic. We have, in some countries, we have cholera. So maybe to identify that cholera pathogen, we have to have like sample, maybe in some labs. Why not? Maybe we did have cholera pathogen in this lab. We have tuberculosis. We can have, how you call that one? Very interesting cholera, and I cannot find it right now, but you understand, this is just collection of, I have to find it, sorry. This is just collection of all possible infectious disease. Yes. Anthrax, oh, I have to find that word. And all possible and impossible infection diseases are, it's okay to have their samples. And if you want to call that lab which working with bioweapon, of course you can, because if you use one container with cholera samples and you pour it into city water, what's going to happen? It's going to be, we can call it biological war or biological weapon. Why not? So, long story short, if you think secret biolab has physical address published on Pentagon site through that program of reduction of threat from infection disease, which is absolutely normal. So I think you should probably just laugh and say, listen, it's not even serious. It's not even serious to talk about it, because there is no truth. There is no threat, just insinuation how you can use that lie to make like big scandal around the world, but it's not the first time. First of all, knowing Russian propaganda, I know how it works. I know how it works for 20 last year of Putin's presidency. They are specializing on making fakes and spreading lies. They even have special movie studios. They making fake movie about everything you cannot even imagine. Of course, somebody worked very hard, but not really, to spread this lie. And this is not the first lie which you use as a propaganda. As you remember, even Chinese foreign minister said US must explain some problems we have in this world. Like Fidel Castro even was asking about swine flu, because we have to check. US and Pentagon and who else has to respond to us. We have to know what's going on. Seriously? China gonna ask us to explain about swine flu and Fidel Castro? What about Mao Zedong? Maybe you should ask his spirit what he thinks about that problem. Those people have no moral rights even to ask those questions. And if you remember, in 1980, as I believe, whole world had a question. Oh my God, we have AIDS, new disease. It was insinuation about, of course, the most dangerous capitalistic country in the world, United States, must have something to do with creating AIDS as an artificial virus which gonna eliminate half of planet Earth, blah, blah, blah. So it's not the first time, but it's funny to talk about those things from the history. It's funny to laugh because it's so not serious. It doesn't even deserve our attention. But when it's connected to brutal aggression of Putin, which happened 6 months ago, and that one plot was used as additional threat and additional excuse why Putin is doing that to Ukraine, because as you remember how they were saying, oh, listen, he's such a good guy. He's cleaning the stables. He's cleaning Ukraine from corruption, from Nazi, from biological weapon, which is produced in Ukraine and paid by United States and specifically Pentagon. Can you imagine? Nothing new in this plot, because this is just fake propaganda mixed with lie and mixed with opportunity to spread additional lie and excuse about his brutal war, which he started in Ukraine. Putin is a unique person. I barely can call him person. He's evil, pure evil, you know. And his way to do his politics has very, very specific color. He's doing everything built on lie. All his career started from lie. All his 20 years of kind of a presidency, he was not even elected properly, if you know. Actually, I will do special program about persona of Vladimir Putin. I think it's time. But I just wanted to remind, everything he is saying, everything his agents are spreading around the world, it's a lie. And for us who grew up in that, who knows that problem from inside, it's not a problem to understand how it's done and why it was done this way. But for you, my friends here, you still have to go through that filter of what is right, what is wrong, what is truth, what is lie. And I understand somehow it's not easy to find that healthy seed and delete all lie which comes to your system. But I will try to help you, because you know that famous saying, life lies halfway around the world before the truth just gets out of bed, right? This is what we have right now. So lie always goes much faster, more colorful, and easy to be accepted by those who are ready to accept that lie. For those who know the truth, they're not gonna even pay attention to that lie. So understand why it was done so unprofessional, because to make somebody believe physical addresses of 46 labs made by Pentagon available to public, do you really believe it can be really like spy operation to make it available to public? No, nobody will know even that physical address of that secret lab if it's really real. And nobody gonna have that lab in the middle of city in a nice building visited by 1,000 people every day. And physically, there is not even room for such a facility, because if you want to build such a lab, look how Wuhan lab in China was built and how much money was poured into this dirty chemical biological business, and what problem we got from that biolab. So all those questions supposed to be addressed to right destination, not to Ukraine, not to actually funny insinuation made with only one purpose: to bring more lie, to bring more dirt, and to make excuse for their brutal leader who is destroying Ukraine. And one more thing for the end. Just work with your imagination. For example, let's try to believe, yeah, it might be some truth in that saying. Yes, Ukraine has some, at least one very dangerous biological lab on the east part of Ukraine. Okay, let's just play with our imagination. Do you really think it's a good excuse to bring Air Force bombs, missiles, heavy weapon, heavy artillery to ruin whole city? They were talking about city very close to Russian border. For example, Kharkiv, very scientific city, has university, a lot of institutes, a lot of really, it's a center of science for at least half of Ukraine. So do you think this is okay to do what they did to Ukraine just because they use that information as an excuse? Do we have some serious medical facility, biolabs, and similar facility with danger stuff in the United States? Probably yes. Do we have similar facility funded by United States just for reason of cheap labor and better prices to do that overseas? Absolutely yes. I think when you look at China even, you're gonna find hundreds of similar facilities, and they have to have some attention too. But if somebody decides to prevent pathological things coming from those facilities, is it a good way to bomb that city and to bomb that lab and to kill 1,000 people around just because somebody told us we have to get rid of that lab? If you want to really clean that lab, or if you think it's really worth cleaning or deleting or erasing from planet Earth, do it smart. Because each lab, the same like a nuclear station, which produce energy in a good time, but when you don't use it properly or you give it to wrong hands, or God forbid, nuclear bomb or just missile hit that plant, it's going to be totally different conversation. It's going to be nuclear bomb, which is very dangerous. So even thinking about that possibilities makes no sense to us. And again, another excuse of Putin, oh, I'm going to clean Ukraine from corruption, from Nazi people, from biolabs, from fascists. You really believe that? So guy who is a fascist by himself, who is a communist by himself, who wants Soviet Union back because he cannot live like that bloody vampire without fresh blood. So that guy has guts to tell us what he is trying to do in Ukraine. So his way of explaining, it's very simple. Oh, I'm just gonna hit some military facilities and like those biolabs, probably on a list of those facilities. But what happened in real life is totally different. We have big part of Ukraine, more than 20% under Russians right now. We have few cities totally ruined. We have, for example, statistic tells us approximate number of civilians killed only in one city of Mariupol. It's 86,000. Just think about it, and possibly it's going to be more because we don't have access to that city. We don't have way to check. They just pour in concrete over bodies of killed civilians, kids, women. So all that story about how Putin explaining his war makes no sense. It's a crime by itself. And please don't look for excuse for those actions, because if somebody tells you, just like an example, we do have corruption in the United States. Yes. We do have Nazi. Yeah, of course. Do we have like fascists? Yeah, of course. Look, sometimes we have them on the street. Do we have communists? Yes, we do have them with portraits of Lenin, Stalin, Mao, and Fidel Castro and Che Guevara. So do we have like sex traffic, child traffic, gangsters, drugs problem? Oh yeah, some cities are totally corrupted, totally covered with all those problems. So big question now. Do you think it's a good idea just to bomb those cities? This way you're gonna kill all corruption, all traffickers, all drugs warehouses, and everybody's gonna be happy, right? It sounds totally ridiculous. So please think one more time about what's going on in Ukraine and how Putin's lie trying to make an excuse and justify their bloody crimes. Especially, I want to bring to your attention, today is September 11th day. We all remember what happened, how it happened 21 years ago. Even I have my personal story, how I experienced that day, but it's a long story. Maybe one day I will tell you. All Ukraine at that day, in that next weeks, we were helping, we were raising money. I was participating in some musical event to raise money for firefighters and their families. So all Ukraine took what happened in New York, September 11, like our own tragedy. Now we have September 11 in Ukraine, almost in every city. Some city, I can tell, we have 10 September 11 in this city, because city is gone, like Chernihiv, like Mariupol, like this Kharkiv. It looks like Aleppo. So September 11 for us Ukrainians is very important because it helps us to understand what not supposed to happen in future, never ever again. And as an American, as a proud American patriot, I do understand and I do feel that pain which all those families still have today. And children are raised without parents, without fathers, and that tragedy changed way of looking for justice, for peace, for everyone, for each American, I believe for every person on this planet Earth. So we have to do everything possible and even impossible to prevent things like September 11 in future. We have to stop terrorism. We have to hold them accountable for what they're doing to us. And doesn't matter who is that enemy. We have to help ourselves to free our country from them and from their influence. So in this tragic day, I just want you to think a little bit about how we deal with terrorists, how we deal with dictatorship, and what we can do to prevent it and to make it like only our history, only our past. Because our future has to be bright, has to be free from those bloody wars. And so far, right now, my motherland, my first motherland, I have two motherlands, Ukraine and USA, is fighting terrible bloody war. And at least one line, what I was talking about today, I think it helps you to understand on that little example how to think, how to see, how to analyze everything what's going on in Ukraine. I just hope that terrible tragedy for my country will end very soon. And it will never happen again for any country in the world. Thank you for your attention. Please share our video if you like it, if you think it was helpful for you to understand, to learn more about those very important problems. And we will try to make more English language video. As I said, my next one will be about persona of Putin. We call him Putler in Ukraine. You know why. Thank you again. It was Diaspora UA, Oksana Davida. Have a good day. Be safe. I'm sending you my good energy and positivity.